My parents stole 25K before my birthday. What they discovered will shock you. Sam Adams couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His parents, once steadfast beacons of support, had begun to feel like strangers. As his 28th birthday neared, he was filled with anticipation for the scholarship that could lift him from his static life as a lab technician to the upper echelons of biotechnology innovation. But that excitement teetered on the edge of something darker, an unease that gnawed at him during late-night shifts at the lab. The shadow of an unspoken tension loomed heavily over their modest home, whispers of secrets hidden like dust in the corners. Every day it felt like a tightrope walk. Should he confront his parents about the increasing bills, the unexplained late-night phone calls? A gnawing instinct told him to dig deeper, but loyalty fought against the weight of suspicion. His dreams of success danced tantalizingly close, yet doubts clashed with the love he held for his family. As he set up equipment, a shaky breath would escape him, muddled thoughts spiraling into a jumble. Was it worth the risk to seek answers, or would he shatter the fragile balance they had maintained? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One evening, compelled by anxiety and an act of desperation, he rifled through the family's financial documents under the guise of a spring cleaning. His heart dropped at the sight of a staggering amount withdrawn from their savings, $25,000. His stomach twisted as he absorbed the reality. Tears threatened, not for betrayal, but for trust shattered. Thoughts raced. Where had the money gone? The silent whispers turned to screams. A failing business venture his parents had never mentioned. A ruse they had maintained to protect him from worry, but ultimately had thrust him into a world filled with turmoil. Sam's muscles tightened as waves of frustration washed over him, saturating the room with bitter disappointment. How could they wrap him in a web of deceit while asking for his loyalty? The anger he felt was unlike any he had experienced, a fierce storm of conflicting emotions, love wrestling with anger, loyalty warring with betrayal. He envisioned confronting them, words spilling out in a fervor, yet dread held him hostage. What if their desires were rooted in desperation, their dreams suffocated under the weight of expectations? All the failures they faced seemed like reflections of his own buried fears, ambition tainted by the fear of failure. He was torn, desperate, but break free yet, paralyzed by the love he held for the flawed foundation they had built together. Would any confrontation lead to redemption, or only deeper fissures? As he lingered on the edge of these thoughts, the realization hit him that before he could confront them, he needed to understand not just their choices, but his own. In the mirror, he could sense ripples of borrowed dreams. As he drifted into silent contemplation, breath steady yet shallow, he braced himself for the storm that would inevitably come, knowing that uncovering the truth might set off a chain reaction he could never take back. The morning light poured through the window, illuminating Sam's scattered thoughts as he sat at the kitchen table. The weight of last night's discovery felt like a leaden anchor, holding him in a suspended state of dread. His parents had not yet resurfaced from their nightly routine. Their absence was both a relief and a torment. He needed time to gather his thoughts and plan his confrontation. With the scholarship deadline approaching, he had always imagined a future bursting with potential and innovation. Now, that same future felt tainted, intertwined with deceit that had spiraled from those he trusted most. Sam stared at the remnants of breakfast, a half-eaten piece of toast, lidded coffee long gone cold. These mundane details clashed starkly against the chaos roiling within him. Why had they hidden the truth? Did they honestly believe ignorance was a gift? The thought made his chest tighten. unresolved questions fluttering against his ribcage. He pushed the plate away and took a deep breath, focusing on the next steps rather than wallowing in despair. He reached for a notebook filled with his aspirations, reflections on his journey through biochemistry, and ideas for future projects. Ideas now swirling in his mind would have to become plans, plans more concrete than fantasies. The raw hunger for success had always been driven by his passion for biotechnology, but now it had happily adapted a new motivation: clarity and resolution. He recalled from his schooling a concept his professor had often echoed: solving complex problems required a methodical approach. He needed to dissect the issues affecting his parents to truly understand their choices, and in that understanding find both sympathy and strength. This was not just about $25,000. It was about revealing the skeletons that haunted their household, ultimately to liberate himself. With renewed determination, Sam pulled his laptop to the table. He researched tax documents, small business funding, and common pitfalls of entrepreneurial ventures. The more he learned, the more he felt a fire ignite within him, the kind that lent hope and clarity. Each statistic was a puzzle piece, fitting into a larger picture he was slowly beginning to grasp. Hours slipped by unnoticed as he tore through the information. He learned about funding avenues his parents might have overlooked and practical strategies to revive struggling businesses. He found potential paths forward, making notes on action plans that could be discussed the next day. Moment he faced his parents, that plan crystallized his purpose and offered a potential resolution. When the door creaked open later that evening, revealing his parents' weary faces, Sam felt a surge of conflicting emotions. They looked older than he remembered, shadows of worry etched deep into their brows. As they approached, he steeled himself against the rising tide of angst. "Can we talk?" he began, as the words hung heavy in the air. The moment of truth was upon him, the words echoing louder than he intended, opening a pathway to the confrontation he had rehearsed in his mind. But as he prepared to deliver his carefully crafted approach, he noticed the faint tremble in his mother's hand, the pleading in his father's eyes. The time had come to face not only their truths, but his own fears, not just of their wrongdoing, but of how their actions mirrored his struggles. Would he unfurl the hidden vulnerabilities, accepting that his quest for understanding could lead to the family's unraveling? He sensed the storm brewing, but he had no way of knowing whether this moment would yield salvation or devastation. As he took a deep breath, he felt the enormity of what was to come. There was no turning back now. As Sam stood at the precipice of confrontation, he felt a rush of adrenaline that surged through his veins. The air felt heavier. Each word he was about to speak weighed down by potential consequences. He glanced at the faded wallpaper, the same design that had framed his childhood, and it suddenly felt alien. How could such familiarity feel so foreign? Taking another deep breath, he locked eyes with his parents. The tension hung between them like a taut string ready to snap. "I know about the money," he said, his voice steady though his heart raced. His mother's lips tightened, and his father's brow furrowed deep. Their reactions suffocated the room, filling it with an oppressive silence. The myriad questions swirling in his head were narrowly focused now. Why did they think they could hide it? Just how deep had their deception gone? Sam pressed on, resolute in his pursuit of clarity. "I want to understand why. You owe me that." The words felt almost foreign to him, a mixture of accusation and an invitation for truth. His mother, visibly shaken, lowered her gaze to the table. "We didn't want to burden you," she whispered, almost inaudibly. A familiar pain flashed across her features, one he had witnessed numerous times during family discussions about finances, dreams deferred, and futures put on hold. This was part of the cycle, he realized, a backlog of unspoken truths festering like an unhealed wound. "To protect me?" Sam interjected, a hint of frustration bleeding into his otherwise measured tone. "Or to protect yourselves?" His father's eyes flickered, pained and pleading, as if daring to divulge the weight of family secrets he had kept hidden for too long. "It wasn't intended to hurt you, son." It was complicated. Complicated. The word felt inadequate, a weak shield against the tidal wave of betrayal Sam felt surging inside him. He searched his father's gaze, willing him to reveal the fragmented pieces of their story. And with each passing moment, he gained clarity that their struggles weren't merely financial. They were personal, steeped in pride and fear. "So you chose silence over honesty?" He leaned in, intense. "You taught me ethics, how integrity shapes character, but now I'm left questioning everything." His father straightened, a flash of grief woven into his features. "We thought we were saving you, but looking back, we see our mistakes." Each word dripped with regret, but Sam wouldn't let that sweep him off course. "In my pursuit of a future that means something, do you realize how deeply your actions cut?" Tears brimmed in his mother's eyes, and for the first time, Sam noticed just how hollow their smiles had become. The home he cherished became a maze of deception, each corner revealing more walls built behind an illusion of security. "Sam," his mother's voice broke through the rawness. "We didn't want you to have to choose between love and ambition. We worked so hard to give you every opportunity." "By lying?" he countered, a flash of anger burning inside him at their rationale. In that moment of contention, the air shifted, a tangible realization crystallizing. Conversations about ethics and integrity were merely whispers in his father's world, muffled beneath layers of survival instinct. Sam felt a strangling determination born anew. This confrontation was more than a reckoning about stolen money. It was a chance to redefine his own narrative, to stand firm and carve a new philosophy from the ashes of this betrayal. "I'm not a child anymore, nor can I afford to be naive." He shifted gears, laying out his research, the funding possibilities, the plans he'd meticulously crafted over countless hours. Time passed as he articulated his newfound perspective, one that embraced vulnerability, willing to confront discomfort, to embrace their family's shortcomings as lessons in resilience. As their faces softened with recognition, Sam understood. This was not just a family unraveling. This was a collective rebirth. They had hidden behind the veil of protection when what they needed was connection, rawness, and honesty. Yet a new worry lingered in the air, unspoken yet palpable. Could their united front bear the weight of the past? As the conversation flowed, entwining hope and trepidation, Sam's heart raced with uncertainty. "Can you commit to being transparent from now on?" he asked, almost as if he could summon their resolve by voicing it aloud. "We can try," his father replied, his voice low but steady. "I want commitment in our relationship moving forward," Sam emphasized, "not just in business, but within our family bond." He sensed the lingering hesitation hanging in the air, like a thin thread connecting them to the past, a past where silence had morphed into a comfortable prison. The commitment to change would demand more than resolve. It would require action. The path forward blurred into uncertainty, but now Sam felt invigorated. They hadn't just confronted the hidden truth about money, they'd embarked on a ritual of renewal. The question lingered, though. Could their fragile promise withstand the storms yet to come? As he glanced around the table, the air thick with vulnerability and hope, he could no longer equal their past to his future. But they all had choices to make, and they stood at the brink of something monumental. Would honesty prevail, or would the scars of yesterday fracture this new chapter before it had a chance to begin? The aftermath of their fraught conversation lingered in Sam's mind like an overplayed tune. He had peeled back layers of family history that felt, until now, protected by time and silence. Every moment spent confronting his parents had forced him to grapple with thoughts he had carefully avoided for years, thoughts which now demanded action and honesty. Sam rose from the table, a subtle urgency propelling him forward. He needed space to breathe, to process the heady mix of revelation and determination swirling within him. The living room, once a haven suffused with childhood echoes, now symbolized a crossroads. He strode toward the window, letting the warmth of the afternoon sun cut through the haze of emotion. Outside, life went on unabated. Cars passed by, couples strolled hand in hand, and children chased one another with raucous laughter. How absurd, he thought. Life remained unaffected amidst his family's turmoil. He needed to plan. This wasn't just about understanding their shortcomings, it was a call to action. The intricate architecture of his future ambitions resided not in material gain, but in unfurling the philosophies he had once internalized, but had now been tainted by ardent hypocrisy. Integrity, openness, and accountability weren't just words thrown into familial discussions. They had to become behavioral principles guiding every aspect of his life moving forward. Sam sat at his desk, pulling out a notepad. The pages were blank, but buzzed with potential. With a decisive stroke of the pen, he drew a line down the center, heading one side, old family dynamics, and the other, new commitments. On the left, he jotted down traits like secrecy, shame, and fear. On the right, he outlined honesty, connection, and vulnerability. The tactile act of writing crystallized his intentions. He could transform his personal narrative into one of authenticity. But as he ventured deeper down this path, doubt crept in, whispering alternative scenarios. What if his parents renege on their promise? What if this renewed commitment was just a temporary mask for their insecurities? A wave of frustration rolled over him. This journey wasn't merely about his parents. It challenged his very beliefs about trust. With a new sense of urgency, he reached for his phone and texted a close friend, Jenny, someone who had grappled with similar family issues. "Can we talk? I need perspective on family dynamics." Within minutes, she replied, more responsive than he had hoped. "Absolutely. Meet me at the cafe later?" As the hours dragged on, Sam reviewed his ideas and plans. He had work to do, and he couldn't rely solely on his parents' commitment. They'd opened the door, but he needed to carve his own path forward. He thought about how they might react to his changing expectations. Would they embrace this new, vulnerable version of him, or retreat back to old habits? A knot formed in his stomach as he recognized the stakes. Later, at the cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee enveloped him, and he felt a degree of calm settle in his heart. Jenny was already seated, her expression welcoming yet concerned. As he laid out his dilemma, he noticed familiar shadows dance across her face. She listened intently, and as he spoke, Sam wondered whether his quest for authenticity echoed in her own experiences. "I think you're on the right track, Sam," she finally said, carefully choosing her words. "But it's going to be a challenge. Families don't adjust easily to change. Take it from someone who knows." Her words hung over him, provoking a whirlwind of thoughts. Trust had been hard-earned over years, but could it be reestablished? He felt the heaviness of generational patterns swarming around them both. "Do you think they can actually change?" he asked, needing reassurance. "They can try," Jenny responded, a hint of doubt in her eyes. "But it'll take more than promises. You have to hold them accountable, while keeping your heart open." As he absorbed her perspective, a prickly sense of foresight emerged. This journey demanded not just faith in his parents, but faith in himself and his growth. He would need to set boundaries, demand transparency, and follow through with courage, even when it felt uncomfortable. "Thanks, Jenny. You've always had a way of reframing things for me," he said, feeling less weighed down and more empowered. As they wrapped up, the sun drifted low in the sky, casting long shadows across the cafe. On the way home, a thought crystallized in Sam's mind. Was he ready to face the reality of his flaws while embracing his own vulnerabilities? With each step, anticipation and apprehension thrummed through him. In the coming days, he would have to transform these insights into action. Could he initiate the difficult conversations that would unravel a history steeped in silence? The thought was both exhilarating and daunting, and Sam knew this was just the beginning. Yet the real question loomed as he crossed the threshold into his home. Would he find the courage to hold his family accountable while anchoring himself in newfound integrity? The door stood ajar, inviting yet intimidating, as he prepared to dive deeper into the intricate dance of change. The door creaked open, a telling sound that matched the tumult in Sam's chest. He stepped inside, his heart racing as uncertainty swirled within him. This was no longer just a home, it was a battleground for change. He found his parents in the living room, engaged with a television show, blissfully unaware of the seismic shift he was preparing to unleash. The air was thick with unspoken truths, each breath a reminder of the painful conversations that awaited him. This was not how he imagined re-entering his childhood space. With each step, he felt the weight of his resolve. He had rehearsed this moment over and over, but where to begin? The carefully constructed plan from the cafe felt both ambitious and naive. He needed more than strategic dialogue. "Mom, Dad," he ventured, his voice barely rising above the chirping of the sitcom. Their heads turned in unison, surprise etched on their faces. A moment passed before they registered the gravity of his tone. "Is something wrong, Sam?" his mother asked, a hint of worry breaking through her otherwise comfortable demeanor. "Can we talk?" he replied, the simplicity of the words belaying their complexity. It was a request laced with anticipation and fear. His parents exchanged glances, the kind that spoke volumes. It was a fleeting moment, but in it, Sam sensed the trepidation bubbling beneath their facade. They silenced the television and nodded, the air thickening as if charged with static. They moved to the dining table, a place that had long been host to family discussions, both trivial and tumultuous. Sam took his seat first, the position feeling both authoritative and vulnerable all at once. This was a table they had sat around countless times, yet today it felt starkly different. He could almost see the shadows of unspoken grievances filling the empty chairs. "Sam, everything okay?" his father prompted, leaning in slightly. He inhaled deeply, his mind racing. Here it was, the moment to breach the long-held secrecy and fear that had shaped their family. "I wanted to talk about what we discussed before, about change and honesty." His mother's brow furrowed, defensiveness breached like a thin ice layer. "What do you mean by change?" she asked, her tension palpable. He pressed forward, recounting the visit with Jenny and how it sparked a need for transparency. "I realized I can't just expect things to shift without accountability. We need to be honest about our experiences, all of them, including the ways we've failed each other." Silence thickened like fog around them. He could see their discomfort morph into resistance, and another wave of doubt washed over him. Would this effort be futile? But as he glanced into their eyes, he could also see flickers of recognition, perhaps even a glimmer of yearning for the same honesty he sought. "That sounds like a lot," his father replied carefully, as if weighing each word. "Were we not open with you?" This question struck differently than anticipated, pinning Sam in place. "No," he said, "you weren't, and it's not just about you. It's about all of us. I don't want to repeat the patterns we've had. I want us to share the truth." He felt unsteady, pushing through boundaries that had formed a protective barrier. His vulnerability hung there, raw and exposed. Just then, the emotional tension snapped. "Do you even see how much I've struggled, or how your actions, your secrets, have shaped who I became?" Faced with a sudden, shocking mirror, both parents recoiled slightly. Sam's father let out a strained breath. "What do you mean by our actions?" "Things like hiding debt and secrets, questioning loyalties without ever talking about them. I want to know why you never shared those burdens with me." With each syllable, the depth of their shared history unfolded. Sam sensed certain truths clawing to the surface, threatening to spill forth. His parents exchanged loaded glances, and he could almost feel the walls they had each built begin to tremble. His mother's eyes flickered with emotion. "You have to understand, Sam. We thought we were protecting you." "By lying?" Sam interrupted, frustration seeping through his words. "How can a family function in silence? This isn't protection, it's avoidance." They paused, the conflict hanging in the air. The table, their usual refuge, now became a battlefield. Sam's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through his veins, battling the fear of discovery and rejection head-on. "Can we really change?" he pressed, the question shard-like in its intensity. "I need to know if you're willing to confront this together." As he awaited their response, a flicker of dread coiled in his stomach. Uncertainty loomed larger than ever. What if the answer wasn't a resolution, but a rehashing of old defenses? The moment felt suspended in time, and in that charged silence, he realized this was more than just about family dynamics. It was a reckoning, a testing of their very foundation. Were they ready to face the truth? With the weight of impending revelations heavy, Sam felt the ground shift beneath him. The moment of truth was approaching, and he wondered, would they not only hear him, but also be willing to turn the painful tide of their collective history towards a transformative future? The response lay frozen in the air, shimmering with possibility, yet fraught with doubt. Sam's heart thudded in his chest as the silence stretched, a taut wire ready to snap. He felt a flicker of panic, the familiar voice in his head whispering doubts. What if this entire confrontation unraveled into chaos? Yet he quickly quelled the turmoil, reminding himself of the stakes. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a pivotal moment in his journey toward liberation, a chance to redefine what family meant. His parents exchanged another glance, a veiled expression shifting between apprehension and something unidentifiable. Finally, his mother broke the stillness, her voice small yet unyielding. "Sam, we didn't know how to tell you. We thought by shielding you from our problems, we were doing right by you. By pretending everything was okay." His voice was steady, emboldened by the seriousness of their exchange. "You were keeping me in the dark, and in the process, you eroded my trust. What you thought was protection turned into isolation for me." A heavy pall hung over the table, the lingering shame that seemed to seep from their very beings. Sam's father cleared his throat, facing his son with a new intensity, perhaps seeing for the first time the turbulence his secrets had unleashed. "You're right. We didn't want to burden you. It was a mistake, and we see that now." The vulnerability in his father's expression nudged at something deep inside Sam, a budding recognition that encased both him and his parents in shared humanity. They had stumbled through a self-inflicted darkness, blinded by intentions that had turned toxic. "Can I tell you something?" Sam said, feeling the weight of his revelations pile one atop the other. "When I found out about your debt, it felt like a betrayal. I thought we were a family that communicated, yet I felt isolated, like you were both living in a world I didn't belong to." "It was never our intention," his mother murmured, her voice laced with sorrow. "But we were terrified, terrified of losing you, of failing you. We didn't know how to face it all." "You didn't fail me by sharing the truth." He leaned forward, desperate for them to understand. "You failed me by not letting me choose for myself. You see, honest discussions about hardship would have made me stronger. Facing adversity together could have bound us tighter." His father's eyes darkened, a storm gathering in their depths. "You're asking a lot from us, Sam, to unravel years of silence, years of misunderstanding. And I'm asking you to see that the only way we'll find clarity is through honesty," Sam replied, his urgency morphing into resolve. "We can't keep living this way, pretending everything is fine while it's not." Gradually, he felt the panic in the room shift. His parents listened, and for the first time, Sam sensed fragments of connections begin to reform. They were on a precipice, far from the cruel edge of uncertainty where their secrets threatened to plunge them. The conversation swayed like a pendulum, balancing on the edge of vulnerability and risk. "What if we're not good at this?" his mother asked, almost pleadingly. "What if honesty pushes us further apart?" Sam considered her words, fighting the urge to retreat into fear. "We won't know unless we try. We need to take the risk. I need you both to be committed. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real." "I want to try," his father said, his voice thick with emotion. I want to find a way to work through this." As Sam looked into their eyes, he saw something he hadn't expected, a glimmer of hope mingled with fear. The path wouldn't be easy, but perhaps they were ready to begin. "Let's start with one truth at a time," Sam suggested, feeling a weight lift. "Tell me how much debt you're actually carrying. Let's break it down together." The room filled with new tension, but it felt different, charged with a sense of purpose. Sam knew they were beginning a journey of collective discovery, one that would test limits and redefine their family's narrative. As numbers were shared and realizations dawned, they ventured into unknown territory. He could feel them sliding into a new phase of openness, one where the burdens were transmuted into shared responsibility. But even amidst this moment of collective reckoning, he could sense a new challenge looming, something deeper and even more complex waiting to be unearthed. "Before we go on," he murmured, his eyes narrowing slightly, "I need you both to promise me this: no more secrets. Not in this family. We need a truth pact." And just like that, the stakes heightened. The request lingered in the air as they nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the moment. Sam felt a surge of renewed courage sweep through him. However, little did he know, the promised truths would uncover scars he had never seen, pushing him toward a confrontation with not just his parents, but with the very concept of his identity itself. A tension crackled in the air. What would that truth reveal? And were they all ready to face the tumult that would inevitably follow? Sam drew a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead settle onto his shoulders like a heavy cloak. He watched as his parents glanced at each other before nodding in tentative agreement, the seeds of their commitment to honesty cautiously taking root. As his mother began outlining their financial dilemma, Sam's mind raced in tandem with her words. She laid out a spiral of missed payments and mounting bills, details that painted a stark picture of neglect. Each revelation was like peeling an onion, layer after layer of vulnerability, until the sharp sting of reality exposed the raw core of their family struggles. The room pulsed with fresh energy, discomfort swirled with determination. Sam realized that beyond mere numbers, each piece of information carried emotions, fears, and dreams shattered by unspoken truths. He felt a strange mixture of relief and dread, as if opening the floodgates allowed not only the burdens of debt to flow out, but also every fragility tucked deep within their family dynamic. "Do you see now?" he interrupted gently. The room stilled, his parents looking up. "This is what I mean. Each truth shared tightens our bond. It allows us to see the battles each of us is fighting, and it strips away the isolation you thought you were protecting me from." His father shifted in his seat, the silence a palpable weight between them. "I always thought that protecting you meant shielding you from adult concerns," he finally confessed, his voice caught somewhere between remorse and acknowledgement. "I didn't want you to carry what I believed was too heavy for you." "But I'm not a child anymore," Sam countered, his voice steadying. "You never let me decide for myself how much I could carry. Wouldn't you rather involve me in the struggle? I'm learning." He could feel the nerve of his ambition knitting together with newfound responsibility, a surge of growth challenging the limits of his identity. "But what if you crumble under the weight?" His mother's eyes glistened, reflecting both fear and protectiveness. "You are our son. This is not just about honesty. It's about managing your expectations of us, of what family means." Sam sensed a decision forming within him, a burgeoning conviction that intertwined with their fears. "What if we don't let fear dictate our actions anymore?" His voice resonated in the hush that followed, bold yet tempered with compassion. "What if I fail? That's part of growing. But if I fail alone in the dark, it'll haunt me, or worse, I'll perpetuate this cycle of secrets." As the conversation persisted, immediate truths were transmuted into growing revelations, each new piece of honesty prompting deeper conversations about regret and aspirations. They spoke not just about money, but also about dreams dashed by circumstance, his father's thwarted ambitions of entrepreneurship, his mother's abandoned passions for art. The revelations peeled back carefully constructed facades, unveiling dreams hidden in the depths of caution, regret layering the cracks within their family unity. As the atmosphere shifted, forging a new breath of vulnerability, Sam found himself leaning into these uncharted waters. This wasn't just about the debt. This was a reclamation of autonomy, a forging of resilience. The awkwardness surrounding their interactions melted away, replaced by the richness of shared experiences, present and past. The air thickened with anticipation and a better understanding of each other's burdens. Yet beneath the softness of shared vulnerabilities laid an uncomfortable truth waiting to emerge. "Now that we've laid these markers on the table," Sam said, his heart still racing, "what else are we willing to confront? What deeper truths have we yet to explore?" The question loomed over them, an echoing challenge that hinted at deeper rifts still hidden in the shadows of their past. As uncertainty entwined with hope, Sam could feel the currents of his own identity coiling tightly around the path laid before them. What truths might emerge next? How could they reshape their family narrative in the face of these raw revelations? The enormity of their undertaking thrummed in the room as Sam braced himself for the storm ahead, the moment of vulnerability that he now realized was far from over. The silence hung heavy, pulsing in the wake of Sam's question. He could see the uncertainty flickering in his parents' eyes, a clear reflection of the uncharted territory they were navigating. It was time to forge ahead. The air crackled with the possibility of breakthrough, yet beneath the surface, each of them seemed paralyzed by fear of what might emerge. "Maybe we should talk about the debts in practical terms first," Sam proposed, his voice steady but his heart racing. "We need to understand the full scope before diving into our feelings again. What can we do to manage this mess?" "Together?" His father's brows furrowed, a mixture of concern and resignation settling over his features. "Well, we can start by listing everything out," he said cautiously, shifting forward. "But you might not like what you see." "Show me," Sam replied firmly, eager to confront the reality they had been avoiding. He was ready to be involved, to shoulder some responsibility. He resisted the urge to shy away from any potential burdens. It was time to reclaim his narrative, one strong decision at a time. His mother moved to grab a notebook, her fingers hovering over the pages as if they were the precipice of an abyss. "You have to know, Sam. Once you see all this, you won't be able to unsee it. Please don't think of this as collapsing under the weight. This is only the beginning." He met her gaze, rallying his resolve. "I won't. Just the opposite. I'm ready for it." As his mother began to write, Sam felt adrenaline coursing through him. The act of confronting their truths was igniting a flame of empowerment. Each number, each unpaid bill, was more than just a financial obligation. It was a stepping stone, illuminating the path toward their newfound honesty. The evening turned into a dissection of deficits and hidden expenses. Clarity gradually unfurled as they compiled their list, layer upon layer, revealing a financial landscape marred by impulse purchases and missed opportunities. Sam listened intently as his parents explained each entry, not merely calculating the toll it had taken, but also the emotions that accompanied the financial strain. They shared how guilt had forced them into silence, how their decisions had spiraled like a runaway train. "What if we started a budget?" Sam suggested, surprising himself with his own decisiveness. "We can create a plan together, step by step. No more secrets." Though his parents exchanged doubtful glances, Sam could see a flicker of hope igniting within them. They nodded, tentative acceptance glimmering in their expressions. "It requires discipline," his father muttered, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "I remember when I had hopes of pursuing my own business. I had a budget, a plan. Why not reinvest that desire?" Sam prompted, recognizing the potential that lay dormant within his father. "You can bring those dreams back to life, with our support. Let's use this experience to reignite our aspirations, even if they evolve. His father's eyes widened at the suggestion, tracing the outline of a dream he once had, a vision that had faded, yet remained intact in the crevices of his mind. Emotions surged through Sam as he caught a glimpse of the future, an opportunity to redefine not just their financial reality, but their family ties. Reclaiming their narrative meant transforming despair into determination. He envisioned them gathered around a table, ideas flowing freely, the sounds of laughter and fresh plans resonating where silence once loomed. However, a new sense of tension coiled within Sam. While they had begun to lift the veil on their finances, another layer of truth lingered just out of reach. What hidden burdens might they still be carrying? The potential for revelation felt both thrilling and ominous. He was nearing the precipice of vulnerability, ready to dive deeper into the shadows. But what else are we avoiding? Sam ventured again, his voice barely masking the intensity of his need for answers. What are the deeper truths we still haven't faced? The air thickened once more, and Sam caught the fleeting gaze his parents exchanged. The tension cleared barely enough to reveal the potential for unveiling an even broader spectrum of struggles. A dormant storm loomed, and Sam braced himself, knowing he might soon be confronted with a revelation that would ripple through their very foundation. With heart racing, he sensed the urgency growing, and the moment of truth approached. What would they uncover next? The room seemed to shrink as the weight of Sam's question lingered in the air. His parents both caught their breath, exchanging apprehensive looks that spoke volumes. He felt the tension bristle along his spine. The anticipation of a new truth was both exhilarating and terrifying. He had initiated this journey into their financial depths, but now a deeper plunge seemed inevitable. "What do you mean, what else are we avoiding?" His mother's voice trembled, a slight catch at the end betraying her composure. With a steadying inhale, Sam pressed on. "We faced the numbers, but we haven't talked about how we got here. What choices led us down this road? Was it just impulse, or is there something more?" His father shifted uncomfortably in his chair, trying to mask concern with resignation. "We've made mistakes, Sam. We're all aware of that." He massaged his temples, clearly struggling between wanting to protect Sam from deeper disappointment and the need to acknowledge responsibility. "By avoiding the feelings and choices that brought us here, we're just perpetuating the cycle," Sam elaborated, his voice unfaltering. "If we want to move forward, if we want to be a team, we have to break that cycle." The silence grew thick, a palpable ripple of vulnerability swirling amongst them. Sam felt a rush of determination coursing through him. He needed them to open up. "What if it's more than just finances?" he proposed. "What if those choices are linked to fears we've been holding since before I was born? Maybe there are dreams we abandoned out of anxiety that we need to face together." His mother looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It's hard, Sam, to admit so many things. There are aspects of our lives tied to regret, to self-doubt. Regret can't define us, though," Sam encouraged. "It can be a catalyst. Let's make it constructive. What dreams did you set aside? What fears have kept you from pursuing them?" His father's expression shifted, a flicker of vulnerability revealing the man behind the protective facade. "I thought I was doing what's right, providing for this family. But my dreams, tucked away in the recesses of my mind, tell another story." Sam pressed further. "What stories? What dreams? Sharing them could free us from this heaviness. It could also be part of the plan we talked about." His parents exchanged glances, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Vulnerability had settled in. It was as if the air crackled with potential energy. Sam sensed it. The possibility of true transformation lay before them if they could face this head on. "I wanted to start that business, the one I mentioned before," his father said finally, his voice no more than a whisper. "But I pushed it aside when the realities of life demanded attention. I felt like I failed my family." "That's not failure," Sam interjected. "That's a postponement. What if we build a plan that incorporates your dream, together? Allow the dream to drive our financial strategy instead of the other way around." Sam felt exhilaration blooming within him. This was more than mere financial clarity. It was about revitalizing their lives as a family. The act of revealing hidden aspirations could serve as the foundation for rebuilding their connection as well. But as the potential for renewal began to glow in the room, a stark thought sliced through his mind. What dreams have I pushed aside? What desires had he buried under the weight of family pressures? Would this exploration not only unpack his parents' long-hidden truths, but also unveil his own? Before he could further contemplate this realization, his mother's voice broke through the haze. You might not understand, but those feelings of failure and inadequacy run deep. It has held us captive, Sam. What if we finally confronted that fear? The sudden charge of honesty, sharper than any bill stacked before them, ignited the fire within Sam. He had opened a floodgate. The moment teetered precariously on the brink of catharsis. Let's face it together, he urged, heart pounding with the weight of this possibility. As his parents leaned in, drawn by the gravity of this pivotal moment, Sam's own inner battle roared to life. He could feel layers of his own fears and aspirations tugging at him, ready to enter the fray. What revelations awaited on the other side? The moment felt crucial, and he could almost hear the ticking clock. Time was not waiting for them to make progress. They stood on the edge of something powerful, and Sam was ready to leap headfirst into the pool of authenticity. But would they follow? Would they brave not just their fears, but his as well? Questions spun in his mind, anxious for the ultimate confrontation between the past and what lay ahead. The veil that separated reality from their dreams was thinning, and an electric anticipation tightened around them. What truths remained hidden beneath the surface of their expectations? Would the price of honesty yield liberation, or threaten to unravel all they knew? As Sam sat at the table, a wave of urgency surged within him. The moment spent peeling back the layers of his family's struggles had forged a fragile bond rooted in vulnerability, yet each revelation seemed to echo with unanswered questions. They stood on the threshold of a transformative dialogue, one that stretched far beyond financial woes into the territory of personal aspirations and fears. Let's not linger on what's lost, he prompted, sensing that the weight of regret could easily sink them back into silence. Let's talk about what we can build together. What dreams can we explore now? His parents exchanged glances, the kind that hinted at uncharted territory. Slowly, his mother sighed, the burden of unspoken dreams hovering like a ripe fruit ready to fall. I used to paint, before I had to think about bills, before I had to think about you both, she admitted, her voice trembling. I've always loved it, but I assumed I couldn't afford to pursue passion in the face of responsibility. The admission hung heavy in the air, a catalyst sparking something deep within all of them. As she spoke, Sam envisioned the boxed-up canvases that had likely languished in their attic, forgotten but filled with possibility. What if you started painting again? It could be something for you, something just for you, he suggested, intrigued at the prospect of not only nurturing his parents' aspirations, but designing a future that allowed personal fulfillment. His father, visibly moved, opened up. I had an idea for a small tech venture, a side business that I never pursued, thinking it was impractical. But maybe there's a reason it kept resurfacing in my mind, he confessed, a flicker of passion igniting in his eyes. It feels different, realizing that I can try again, with support. This was it. The moment Sam realized that to lift their family from the shadows of despair, they needed a joint effort, not just to navigate finances, but to forge ahead with their individuality intact. With each idea that emerged, Sam felt the ice thaw. Let's commit to rekindling those passions while we strategize about our financial realities. We won't bury our dreams for practicality anymore. His mother nodded, a smile breaking through with uncertainty. It's about time we acknowledge that it's okay to want more, to hope again. The glimmer in her eyes resonated with renewed ambition. The energy around the table shifted, transforming the once stale air into a breeze filled with possibilities. They weren't merely tackling their financial concerns, they were reclaiming aspects of their identities lost in the grind of life's demands. Sam felt a surge of clarity. What he feared as a divergence from family loyalty was actually a route toward collective growth. Let's set goals, Sam suggested, their initiative transforming into a dynamic family plan. He swiftly pulled out his notepad, ready to document these newfound intentions. We can write down the dreams and then brainstorm practical steps to pursue them, be it through a budget or time management. I want to support both of you in achieving your aspirations just as much as pursuing my own. Are you sure you're ready for that? His mother asked, concern etched into her features. Focusing on all these dreams might add more pressure to your life. I've realized that pressure doesn't stem from dreams. It arises from silence and fear, he replied, feeling emboldened to live with intention. Sharing these dreams gives us strength. We can do this together. Each step will help us carve out our own paths while being a family that thrives on honesty. As they began mapping their goals, noting down ambitions and milestones, Sam felt the tide of change swell around them. He envisioned their family as a vessel sailing into uncharted waters, ready to explore the depths of ambitions that had long been abandoned. For the first time, their dialogue didn't just address financial missteps, but wove the fabric of who they were as individuals and as a collective. After an hour of fruitful discussions, a sense of accomplishment settled in the air. They had lifted not only the shroud of secrecy surrounding their finances, but had also repaired their family bond. Laughter flickered between them, an orchestra built on collaboration and shared hopes. But amidst the flood of encouragement, Sam felt the undercurrent of his transformation. He, too, had wrestled with fears that had held him back. In my journey of revealing these truths, I've realized my own dreams are equally valid, he said, contemplating the truths he had yet to confront himself. I've always wanted to push boundaries in biotechnology. I can no longer let the fear of failure parent my ambitions. As he voiced this, he could feel the prospect of individual fulfillment mingling with his parents' aspirations, a new foundation forged from bravely facing their realities. In the days that followed, the Addams family meticulously transformed their visions into actions. They set up weekly check-ins, maintaining transparent dialogues about both the financial plans and the unfolding pursuit of dreams. Each day became an emblem of their commitment. Dishes washed accompanied by discussions of art projects, application drafts for his father's tech idea popping up at dinner. Sam embraced a new rhythm alive with growth, steadily building confidence both in himself and within his parents. Each victory magnified the ethos of their experiences. Their once stifled ambitions began to blossom, narrating tales of resilience and renewed fortitude. When Sam eventually won the prestigious biotechnology scholarship, he stood proudly, aware that this wasn't merely a personal accomplishment. He had charted a course through adversity, emerging into a space marked by authenticity and integrity. Yet beyond the accolades, he found the deeper fulfillment lay in having helped create a family dynamic that embraced vulnerability, where dreams were nurtured without fear. The future, once blurred by distrust, emerged vibrant and promising. Sam had not only conquered fear, but also demonstrated the power of truth in forging bonds that triumphed over despair. With newfound clarity, he reveled in being a catalyst for transformation, not just for himself, but for his entire family. The journey toward honesty had equipped them with a robust arsenal for success, and standing amongst his parents, he recognized that true empowerment rested in the authenticity they had built together. They were healing, together. This was the moment to embrace their potential fully. Sam stood proud, for he had achieved more than any single prize. He had transformed his family's narrative into one of hope, authenticity, and resilience. If you want to embark on your own journey of transformation, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that empower you to forge your path. Leave a like now to support the algorithm that helps bring these narratives to life. Your actions matter immensely. Comment your reactions and theories about how Sam's journey resonates with you, and share where you stand on your personal paths. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans of resilience and personal triumph understand the importance of collective support.